Jai Hind, everyone. Artillery has been very crucial for conduct of operations from time immemorial. In fact, its use had changed the very outcome of destiny of nations. I'm sure you would have known the battles of Panipat and number of other activities thereafter. How it came favorable to Mughals, and thereafter how Britishers, used it to their advantage, and number of other battles. Coming closer to battles in India, the artillery support was found so important to the planners that if there was a shortage of artillery, the attack plans used to be changed. It is so important and critical. I had the privilege of being part of Kargil war for some time, and that war is known as artillery's war. In fact, they are the ones who actually changed the course of the war fighting, fired lakhs of rounds through Bofors in the direct firing role, and changed the very course of the outcome of artillery. As we move ahead from that timeline, there have been debates about its use, its profile, because there have been mixed reactions about how they fared up in Russia-Ukraine war, what were the reasons, and more so how India needs to construct its artillery, especially given the threat we have in the mountainous terrain along Chinese border and also in Jammu and Kashmir portion of the Pakistan border. There have been varying thoughts. We could not have got a better person to dwell on this issue than General Tarun Chawla, who has been the ex-DG Artillery and had taken many steps to re-inaugurate the artillery profile of Indian Army. Before I request General Tarun to dwell on this important issue, I would request Captain Nitin to introduce the speakers, and then we will commence the talk.
Thank you, sir. Lieutenant General Tarun Chawla is an alumnus of the St. Thomas High School at Dehradun, who joined the National Defence Academy in 1980 and was commissioned in the Regiment of Artillery in 1984. He has served for 39 years in the Indian Army in various combat, technical, financial, administrative, and instructional capacities. He is a recipient of the Param Vishesh Seva Medal and the Ati Vishesh Seva Medal for distinguished service. In addition, he has been commended by the Chief of Army Staff in 2013 and 2016. He has tenanted the appointments of Director General of Artillery and the Director General of Financial Planning. He was a strategic advisor to the Chief of Army Staff and the Chief of Defence Staff on financial inclusion measures and futuristic growth of artillery assets in the Indian Army. He was involved in the conceptualization of the Army Design Bureau and a key member of the Indian side during engagements with the US academia and industry as part of the Defence Trade and Technology Initiative. He was also a founding member of the core group for launching the Army's Make in India initiative in 2016. He has attended the Defence Services Staff Course, Higher Defence Management Course, National Defence College Course, and Long Gunnery Staff Course. He has served with the United Nations Observer Mission in Liberia in 1996 and has been an instructor at the College of Defence Management at Secunderabad. With extensive experience as a seasoned and forward-thinking leader, he is a widely traveled military professional, proficient in strategic leadership, operations, financial management, weapon development, and policy formulation. After retirement, he has been associated with various military think tanks and educational institutions and is a regular speaker on technology, leadership, motivation, and organizational effectiveness. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, General Ashok. I hope I'm reasonably audible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to share my views on artillery, subject which is very close to my heart. And I must also place on record my sincere thanks to you for mentioning and giving a little bit of credit to artillery on 25th of July, that is today, as the nation, the Indian Army, the armed forces go on to celebrate the Kargil Vijay Divas, in which the artillery undoubtedly played a very major role. It is all documented for everybody to see. And if victory was achieved, it was largely on the shoulders of Regiment of Artillery. I'm not taking away any credit from any other arm. Everybody had something to contribute, but artillery played its part well. Not much of a introduction that I wish to add here. We can straight away go to the PowerPoint presentation, and I'll flow in that way. The way I have structured my presentation is to give you a little background first as to where we were and how the journey has been and where we are today and where we hope to reach, say, in another 15 or 20 years from today. I hope the slide is visible.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this is how I have structured. We will look at the background and the story, and then come to a few challenges actually that are there right in front of us. They are not unsurmountable, but at the end of it, I will also put in my word as to what could be the options for the growth of artillery, in sync with the slogan of indigenization or Atmanirbharta. So the story so far has been, I'll take you back to after the independence. You know, the only gun that the Britishers left, which was of some weight, was the 25-pounder gun. When I was commissioned, my unit had this gun, a very versatile gun. Anybody who's fired this gun, it could fire all types of ammunition, and this was the mainstay at that point of time. But somewhere in the 70s, the ordnance factories came up with the Indian field gun, and a lighter version of that was the light field gun. Somewhere around this time also, we had very good relations with the erstwhile Soviet Union, Russia now largely, and we also procured the 130 millimeter M46 gun from them. We had other guns also in our inventory, largely Russian guns, which were the 100 millimeter gun was one of them. 1 to 2 millimeter gun was also there. But the indigenous part had started showing green shoots, and the IFG, that is the Indian field gun, and the light field gun had come. There was a little bit of a gap somewhere in the early parts of the 80s. But as I talked to very senior officers, they told me that this was the time that we were looking at, giving a modern fillip to the artillery. And that is how in 1986, we procured the FH-77B, commonly called by everybody as the Bofors gun. Bofors is the company name, but the howitzer itself is FH Field Howitzer 77 Bravo. A great gun, but somehow got embroiled in some controversy, and that is how about 1,400 pieces were to be imported, but only 400 came, and then we'll not go into the controversy part. And so we could only equip about 21 regiments with this, with the pieces that we got. Now, we all know it has done great service to the Indian artillery, to the Indian army, not only in the period that has followed it, it still continues to. It still continues to, while we may talk of the new acquisitions that are happening, but still the field howitzer 77B is the go-to weapon for the artillery whenever there is a requirement. That is why in 2020, when we had moved forward against the northern adversary, we had to muster up this particular equipment from all parts of the country and send it there up as a show of strength. Along with this, I must add that I brought out that the 70s we had the Indian field gun and the light field gun. They still continue to be with us. And the bulk, the mainstay of the artillery is on today also. There are about 104 or 105 regiments of 105 millimeter. Also, the 130 millimeter, which I mentioned, which we procured from the Russians, it's still doing good service. A very, very versatile gun, a very accurate gun. Incidentally, I am a great fan of Russian equipment, not for any other reason, but with the accuracy with which we achieve by firing that system. So that is where I've taken you to somewhere towards the end of the last century when the Kargil war took place and the 155 millimeter field howitzer 77B actually played a big role. Of course, we fired the 130s, we did fire the 105s, IFGs, we fired the rockets also. And that time the only one rocket was with us, that is the Grad BM-21, again bought from the Russians. Now, somewhere around the turn of the century, there was a thought that you need to have a plan for modernizing the Indian artillery, because the days of the 25 pounder or of the 100 millimeter or the 122 millimeter were over. 130 was a good gun, but somehow it was already about 30 years plus old, so it had to be somewhere arrested and given a decent farewell. Similarly, the IFG and the LFG suffered from range constraints. In charge super, you can only reach up to 17 kilometers, which was considered in modern warfare a constraint on us. So a plan was made, and modernization of artillery was thought through by some great minds, and that is largely known as the FARP, or the Field Artillery Rationalization Plan, and many other names. But it was a good plan which involved about procurement of about 3,000 odd guns of all types, towed guns, mounted guns, and also the self-propelled, the tracked variety, the wheeled variety, everything was put in that, and a plan for about 3,000. But the bulk, the mainstay had to be the towed guns, and bulk of the units were to be raised with that equipment. Now, that is a time where the ordnance factories were the only ones that were producing some kind of artillery equipment. The private sector had not come into the scene, maybe largely due to government policies, and maybe the encouragement that they subsequently got was not there at that point in time. So that is how we set about moving ahead, trying to achieve that mix of 3,000 odd guns. Now, what were the attributes that we were looking at? The gun should have a larger reach, should be able to take part in deep fires deep into the enemy territory. Because that time also our main focus was towards the western sector. So the larger we could, the longer reach and the farther we could reach was always a wish list. It should have the capability for destruction. That means the shell must be lethal enough. It cannot be a 13 kg shell with limited TNT in it. So the shell must be lethal enough to destroy, because somewhere the philosophy was moving from neutralization of enemy by artillery to destruction of enemy by artillery. Of course, at this time, precision was coming into play, because uh, everything that you did on the battlefield was beamed live into the drawing rooms and living rooms of households. So precision, avoidance of collateral damage was a must. So precision was also one of the requirements. The artillery should be able to shoot and scoot. So it should be mobile, and it should be able to survive on the battlefield. Otherwise, uh, the technology was growing and people could locate you within no time. And so you had to survive on the battlefield to fight another day. And lastly, it should contribute towards battlefield transparency, because artillery not only does destruction, all that, it is also a very important component of ISR. The surveillance equipment that the artillery holds plays a great role in making the battlefield transparent for the senior commander to take a decision. So somewhere at the end of this, it was decided that as the world is moving, 155 will be the standard caliber of all future guns. Now, as I go ahead, 155 caliber means the bore of the barrel will be 155 millimeter, but 155 can be of various forms. It can be a 39 caliber gun, it can be a 45 caliber gun, and it can also be a 52 caliber. So one line I will say, when we say so and so gun is 155 millimeter 45 caliber, that means the length of the barrel is 45 times 155 millimeter, and so on for 39, and so on for 52. So the longer the barrel, the 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 larger is the period for which the gases put their pressure on the shell that is moving out of it, and a longer range is achieved. I mean, that is all technical gunnery. We can discuss it on a different day. So this was the story. So we decided 155, and we set about trying to procure guns from various sources which were meeting these criteria. Now, I'll first touch the gun systems. Now, among the gun systems, largely I have divided them into three parts: towed guns, mounted guns, and self-propelled guns. Some popular names are there in front of you, and you can connect with them. At that point in time, we had the Indian field gun, the light field gun, the 130 millimeter, and the field howitzer 77B. Now, the ultra light howitzer was initially not part of the artillery rationalization plan. But sometimes in the early part of somewhere between 2010 and 2015, there was some delegatory exchanges between India and the US, and that is how we ended up procuring 150 pieces of 155 millimeter ultra light howitzer from the Americans, and it had a very sound operational reason, and that was that this was the heli-transportable gun. So in our eastern part of the country, where you all know how the terrain is, so if the guns have to be moved from one valley to another, if they were to fall back and then enter the other valley, it will take days. So something was sought after which could meet this requirement, and so this ultralight howitzer M777 that we got from the Americans was fulfilling that criteria. Then, of course, let us all admit that money has always been a problem. So India was a poor country. So poor man's option was how to how to convert the 130 millimeter gun? Is there a way of converting it into a 155 millimeter gun? And some solution was found. And Soltum company gave that solution, that the barrel could be changed. The 130 millimeter barrel was changed with a 155 millimeter barrel, and a 45 caliber barrel length was there. So that was the Soltum, and 9 regiments were equipped with that. I very clearly remember I was a commanding officer during those days, and my unit was one of those which got converted from 130 M46 gun to it became a 155 millimeter Soltum gun. And then this was a good idea which was picked up by the ordnance factory, and they decided to give a solution, a homegrown solution. So the guns which are now fitted with the ordnance provided by the ordnance factory are now known as the Sharang guns. So 15 regiments is the plan. So 9 plus 15, we'll have 24 regiments, which we are commonly calling them as upgunned systems. Then, of course, when we had bought the Bofors guns, the TOT came along with it, but somehow that TOT, nobody looked at it for years. But somewhere in the early part, 2010, 11, this initiative was taken by the directorate, and the TOT was dug out, and an Indian version, a Desi Bofors gun, was planned to be inducted, and this not only had the qualities of the 77 Bravo, it was also to be better mechanical and with better electronics. So Dhanush was the name given, and it is a mechanically upgraded and a electronically upgraded Bofors gun only. The ordnance factory is making it, the ones at Jabalpur, under the AWEIL. Then, of course, somewhere 2012-13, the DRDO came up with a plan to produce the gun of the century, and an all-electric drive gun, and the gun was named as the Advanced Towed Artillery Gun System, and they were doing the R&D on it, and that is the time they involved the private sector also with them, and that is how the popular names of Tatas and the Bharat Forge Limited came, and the ATAGS gun was conceived, and today you all know it very well that it has reached the doorstep, and it is very soon to be inducted. And lastly is the TGS, that is the towed gun system we call. Actually, all of these guns are towed. IFG, LFG, ULH, Soltum, Sharang, Dhanush, ATAGS, all of them are towed by a prime mover. But why we are differentiating that we are looking for a gun which will be of the towed variety. So not only all these guns as it is are towed, but we are looking the bulk mainstay to be a towed variety gun, for which I'm told the latest is that the RFP is already out in the market. And then the second category is the mounted guns. You see, I mentioned about shoot and scoot capability. So this is something like a barrel mounted on a truck. Very popular with the Western countries. Even the Pakis have a SH-15, which they have taken from the Chinese. The Chinese have PCL 181, which is a very potent mounted gun system held with them. So we also have in our plan to equip certain number of regiments with mounted gun systems, and this is also, I'm told, the RFP is already out. And lastly, a very good success story. Sometimes in the later part, that is the 2016, 17, 18, is that from the South Koreans, we went and bought the self-propelled, the K9 gun system, which in India we are calling as the Vajra, and the L&T is the India partner. And incidentally, I forgot to mention with the ULH, It was Mahindra Defense was the India partner, and the kits came from US and they were assembled not very far from Delhi, Faridabad only. And similarly, at Talegaon at the L&T facility, the K9 gun with near 50% indigenous content also was assembled. But the bulk came from the South Koreans, the Hanwhas. So this is all about the gun systems. That is where we are today. MGS, mounted gun system, and TGS is on the plate. Dhanush is being produced. One regiment has already been inducted, and my information says that the second regiment is also very near induction. It has been slow. It has been slow. It could have been faster, but there are ordnance factory or the erstwhile ordnance factory and now the AWEIL have their own reasons to give, and well, we will have to accept it. But this is also in the pipeline. So very soon you will have, of course, the Bofors guns. You will have 7 regiments of the ultralight howitzers. You will have 24 regiments of Soltam Sharang. You will have Dhanush regiments. You will have ATAGS regiments, and you will, of course, the towed gun system, in which I am told the Indian indigenous gun producers are taking a lot of keen interest in this towed gun system RFP also. And of course, then you'll have the mounted guns. As far as the K9 Vajra, 100 guns were procured, 5 regiments were equipped. They were inducted into high altitude, and we came across some challenges that the guns were actually designed to operate in desert terrain. So a certain amount of additional kitting had to be done. We call it the winterization kit, and to make this gun suitable for operating in high altitude areas. After the gun systems, I will talk of the rockets and missiles. 4 main varieties, 3 rockets, 1 missile. The Grad BM-21, 1 to 2 millimeter, bought from the Russians, and 5 regiments are holding this equipment. It's a very potent equipment, 40 tubes, and the mover on which these tubes are mounted was earlier a Ural truck, which was bought from the Russians, but we have now indigenized it, and it is an Indian company has provided the. So all the Grad launchers today are on Indian trucks. Ashok Leyland did the job. Then the Smirch, again weapon system, very potent. 3 regiments with us, and 300 millimeter is the caliber. But there are no plans, as I understand, to procure any more such equipment. In fact, it is doing good service for the Russians in the ongoing conflict. Pinaka, homegrown story, DRDO developed and produced indigenously. A very good success story, I must say that. About 37.5 kilometers is the range. It has been enhanced now. The DRDO claims that they have been able to reach 45 kilometers. And there is a bouquet of ammunition which is being prepared for the Pinaka rocket systems, which is dual purpose, improved conventional mission. The rockets are able to disperse bomblets, minelets against soft-skinned vehicles, against tanks, against moving troops. And of course, there are other types of ammunition. But the one ammunition that I would like to highlight here is the guided extended range rocket ammunition to be fired from the Pinaka rocket system, which the DRDO claims has achieved a range of 75 kilometers. So that will be a great boost to the reach of artillery if the GR, that is the guided extended range ammunition, comes in big numbers. So these are the 3 rocket systems. We have 5 regiments of Grad, 3 of Smirch, and we have 4 of Pinaka as of now, but the government has already given the sanction for 6 more regiments to be equipped with Pinaka rockets. Then is of course the Queen, the BrahMos missile system. We have 4 regiments, one with each artillery division and one Northern Command. And of course, this is something which has caught the attention of markets the world over. And BrahMos is a joint venture between a Russian company and an Indian DRDO. So there is a lot of demand for this equipment, especially Southeast Asia and some other countries also. And it is earning good revenue it's one of the big ticket export items from the Indian side. A word about surveillance systems. Now, there are different types of surveillance systems, ground-based systems, much like the LOROS, which we got from the Israelis, but it is an Indian version. Tata has already come out with LROS, Long Range Observation System. I have seen it myself, though it is not inducted big time into the army because the procurement process will take its own time. Then the battlefield surveillance radar ELM 2140, which the artillery is using, ELM 2129, the infantry has got. This is again taken from the Israelis. I'm told an Indian version of this is very much in developed state. And then, of course, the weapon locating radar, somewhere in the early part of this century, we went after the Kargil war, we went and bought the ANTPQ 37 radar from the Americans. But then good indigenous job was done, and Swati weapon locating radar has been produced by Bharat Electronics, and adequate numbers are there in the army or in the artillery to take care of the. This is a weapon locating radar. So weapon locating radar, as you all understand, is able to pinpoint the location from where a particular shell was fired. I have added UAVs last in this. Though UAVs were part of artillery, they are not part of artillery at this point in time. Of course, the Searcher and the Heron UAVs. And of course, there is something more in the pipeline, which is happening for the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. But I have added it here because this may be with the Army aviation, but the artillery is also going for procuring UAVs. You see, I talked about the guided extended range Pinaka rocket, which will have a range of 75 kilometers. There is no point firing a rocket at 75 kilometers and not having the observation. So we are going for 2 types of UAVs. One will be of the range of about 80 odd kilometers and 6 hours endurance. And the second will be where the OP officers will be equipped with a range of about 15 kilometers and 2 hours endurance. Both these procurements are happening through the emergency procurement route, and very soon we will have our OP officers and our battery commanders equipped with this equipment. Now, there has been a lot of move forward on the ammunition development. Of course, we are now firing the 155 millimeter shell from most of our equipment till we phase out the IFGs and the LFGs. Incidentally, let me add, the procurement is going slow, so we've not even got rid of our mortars as yet. So there are 21 regiments still equipped with 120 millimeter mortars, which I did not list anywhere in my gun systems or rocket systems or anywhere, because they are doing a good job, but they are on their way out, and that manpower is being utilized for raising of Pinaka new regiments and so on and so on. So 155 millimeter shell is more lethal than the IFG shell or the LFG shell or even the 130 shell. Then we bought the Excalibur ammunition. This ammunition can be fired. It's a precision ammunition, can be fired from the M777. That is, we bought this from the Americans in two tranches through the emergency. 108 in each tranche, 216 we fired some of them. I myself was witness to firing this precision ammunition in high altitude area. Of course, it has been great success in the plains, and now we have achieved success in the high altitude areas also. But the constraint is it can only be fired with the M777 gun system that we have, where bulk of these systems are actually in the eastern command. But there is a thought that can the K9 gun be able to fire Excalibur round? So that is a issue between the South Koreans and the Americans. So a lot of ifs and buts in that. But if that could happen, it will be a very, very good news to the art. Then, of course, we bought precision guidance kits, about 500 of them. So this kit is strapped on to a dumb shell, and that it achieves certain amount of accuracy when it is fired. Of course, our success story, gone are the days when we used to fire brass cartridges and then get about cleaning them. There was a huge logistic chain, and then deposit that cartridge back. Now we have the charge bags, a lesson that we learned from the Bofors guns. So we have a white charge bag and a green charge bag system, low zone, high zone. So bi-modular charge system we are producing within the country, Nalanda Ordnance Factory, and it will provide this charge bags to all the 155 millimeter equipment guns. And of course, something which I mentioned earlier, the bouquet of ammunition which the Pinaka is able to fire is the area denial munition, area denial ADM in short, ADM Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3. So Mark 1 is dual purpose against tanks and against troops. Then Mark 2 or ADM Type 2 rather is against tanks, and ADM Type 3 is against person. But there are some issues. The ammunition is under trial at this point in time. But I'm very sure once it clears the trials, mass production will start, because a lot of private industry has also now started producing ammunition we all know about. So all this is the story of the artillery as to where we were and where we made a plan and how we are moving ahead. You can reserve your questions. I'll take them on towards the end. But there are, of course, in a big plan like this, there will always be challenges. So some of them which I have listed, there may be more. This list may not be exhaustive. Some of them may be minor in nature. Some of them may be major in nature. The first thing that I have listed is indigenization. And by indigenization and under challenge, why have I put? Because it is a tall order. You see, we were bulk of everything was getting imported. Private industry is working double time actually to achieve this. But to produce 3,000 guns, it will not happen. It will not happen in a day. It will not happen in a year. It will not happen in 2 years, 5 years, not even in 10 years. Secondly, the indigenization, now we've gone on to from Make in India, Make for the World, and now we are talking of Atmanirbharta. What does Atmanirbharta mean? Does it mean that we produce each and every part of a gun system, which is a very complex gun system is very complex. You need the ordnance, you need the basic structure, you need sighting systems, you need muzzle velocity measuring systems, and you need sighting systems for against tanks, you need for indirect fire, and so many, a plethora of things. You need ammunition, you need laying and traversing of gun, elevating of gun. So everything, does Does it have to be indigenous, or we go by a 70-30 or a 60-40? So certain items per force, till they get indigenized, will have to come through the import route. So the faster the private industry gears up and tries to produce everything, faster we will become Atmanirbhar. Legacy systems, we are still holding on, as I told you, to mortars, to 130s, to 105 IFGs, LFGs. We are still holding on to 1 to 2 millimeter gun, which is actually being phased out, but we have got it. So it creates a logistical challenge to stock up with so many kinds of ammunition, and some of them are fired with brass cartridges also. Now, why I put technology obsolescence as a challenge is because the time it takes for a new system to come, by the time that new system comes, the technology has leapfrogged and gone somewhere ahead. So the faster is our conception to production cycle, we will be concurrent with technology that is there in the world. Otherwise, we will produce a gun of yesterday. We need to produce a gun of tomorrow. So somewhere this balance has to be there. You cannot have state-of-the-art systems 100%. I understand that. You will always have legacy systems in your inventory, but the lesser is the quantity, the better it is. Procurement procedures are challenged because they are long drawn. So every time the defense procurement procedure gets revised, it adds in volume and bulk. And you all are part of a think tank, and you know this better than me. It is a challenge, to shorten this. Everybody says that the procurement procedure needs to be shortened, but actually it hasn't got shortened. So it's a challenge we all have to take and find ways of achieving this target. Last point I have put is inter and intra-service issues. I commanded an artillery division where I had long-range vectors under me. So if I was to fire a BrahMos missile and the accuracy that BrahMos claims to be, I must acquire the target. First of all, the target will be 300 kilometers away from me, if not 300, 250. So it will be deep inside enemy territory. So how do I acquire it? The satellite systems give us an acquisition capability up to a certain limit. But if I am also talking of no collateral damage and precision, so we need to either have our own acquisition systems, some of which are in the pipeline and some we have already got also. But then we are also dependent upon sister services. Not that they are not forthcoming; they are very forthcoming, and come the day, I'm sure they will share, because they are a step ahead of us. Especially the Indian Air Force has got great systems to acquire targets, because that is what their job is, to strike deep into the enemy territory. So right now we are a little dependent, but it's the time of jointness and integration. But the vision should be the artillery should be able to do it on their own. And then, of course, inter-service issues are also there, like the UAVs. Now, they were with the artillery, gone to aviation. They're doing a good job out there. Artillery will also have. So, airspace management, all those issues will have to be thought through. So, what are the options? I know I'm nearing the end of the time allotted to me. Some options, some of them may be radical in nature, throw them out of the window, but that is how I feel a beginning has to be made. So public versus the private sector. Now, there is no doubt, I don't think so, anybody will contest that the private sector is more efficient and lends to a faster acquisition as compared to the public sector. Public sector in guns is basically your DPSUs. They have their own challenges, but we did corporatization of the ordnance factories. But let us look within ourselves and think that has it really brought in efficiency in the functioning of these so-called ordnance factories? And even if it has, what percentage? So I am not saying go public, shun public and go private totally. But somewhere the public sector has to match up with the efficiency that is delivered by the private sector. Private sector not only in defense hardware production, in other fields also we see, because there is value for money and every hour counts, and that is the culture that we need to imbibe in our public sector also. Scale up production. What do I mean by that is that if 3,000 guns have to be acquired, so many Loros have to be acquired, so many battlefield surveillance radars have to be acquired, our private industry or even the public sector has to gear up to produce those numbers. We will not be happy if only 12 guns or 20 guns are produced from a factory in a year. It has to be big time, so that this modernization drive is achieved in a reasonable and a decent time frame. So that is what I mean by scaling up production. Like now the bimodular charge system, right now it is being produced only at the Nalanda Ordnance Factory. Now when all guns will be 155 caliber, then everybody will demand for their first line, second line, war wastage reserves, as also for training 155 millimeter bimodular charge system. So will one factory suffice? Either it has to scale up big time or more such ventures have to come. Last point, maybe some people, it is connected somewhere to the second point, that diversify procurement. What I mean is that all eggs should not be put in one basket. If we diversify, 10 people will produce and 10 people will contribute towards the faster modernization of regiment of artillery. Yes, we have a system where there is an RFP, everybody applies, the L1 gets the order, that all that is well understood, but we must have a little check as to if maybe one system, one particular production house is more efficient than the others, then either that production house scales up big time, or some kind of a diversification takes place, so that guns are produced not at one place but at a number of places. You people may have your own views on it. I felt this is one way of getting speed, but economics, the procedures, the don't really. So we'll have to tweak all of them, and somebody will have to find an answer if this was to be followed. That is all I have.